Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations Podcast. On today's episode, I'm honored to be joined by Luana Dametto. She is the drummer for the Brazilian extreme metal band Crypta, as well as an ex-member of the Brazilian thrash band Nervosa. Her and I had the opportunity to talk about what it's been like for her to be discovering death metal and becoming a drummer in the same genre as a teenager in growing up in a small town in Brazil. So we got to discuss that, and we also got to talk about how she ended up on the path that she is now, what it's like for her to be making a career out of being a musician, let alone a death metal one at that. And we also got to talk about a lot of the behind-the-scene anecdotes of what the reality of the road is like, which I'm sure you guys will appreciate. And at the very end of this episode, I believe that you will come across some very interesting theories about Brazilian metal and why it has always been as powerful as it is. And I'm pretty sure that some of these theories will blow your mind into fucking pieces. So stick around for that. And of course, we could not have this conversation without discussing the tragic events at the Apollo Theater in Belvidere, Illinois, which happened in around March this year, I believe, when Crypta were on tour with Morbid Angel, and the unfortunate tornado incident, which injured a lot of the fans attending the show, as well as taking one person's life. So, of course, all of our condolences go out to everyone affected by this tragedy. I know it's been a few months, but this is an unfortunate thing, and of course, we're all metal brothers and sisters. So, for those who were affected by this and all of the fundraising that they had available, I have included them in the description for this episode. So please do try and give them your support in some ways, in any ways, if you can. And yeah, just spread the love, if you will. If you guys are new to the Iblis Manifestations podcast, well, first of all, welcome, and I hope that you will enjoy the conversations that we're going to be having here. Any shares, any subscriptions, any feedback are all very much welcome, since this is, of course, free to use service, if you will, and of course, all it really takes in return is your time, which, of course, I do very much appreciate. And do keep an eye out on the Crypta record, which is going to be coming out on the 4th of August this year. It's called Shades of Grief, and it's going to be out via Napalm Records. So links to that will also be available in the description, and just keep an eye out for Crypta finally coming to your town, and make sure to give them all your support. One additional note before we get into our discussion with Luana here today. My band Trivex have also announced our full-length album, which is called Eloah Burns Out, and that's going to be out on the 29th of September via Cult Never Dies. We worked very hard on this one, so if you happen to have the time, I also have the pre-order links available to that album as well. So, of course, I would very much appreciate you checking out my band Trivex as well. So, yes, thank you very much once again for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Luana Dametto to Iblis Manifestations.
We control the
Okay. Good afternoon, Luana, and welcome to Iblis Manifestations. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I can imagine that you're probably quite busy at the moment with all the new album stuff that's kind of happening at the moment, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just dealing with merchandise right now, reopening our store in Brazil, and some, I would say, more computer oriented work for the band.
Yeah, all the extremely exciting stuff, right?
Yeah, extremely exciting. All day at the computer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, just as a quick start off point, as I mentioned, I've actually already followed you for a little while now. Since obviously you were in, I believe I discovered you around the time you were in Nervosa, which, if I wanted to take a guess, I would probably say that's around the time where sort of your social medias and your profile as a drummer generally will have been the time where it took off. So there's a lot I'm very curious to know about you and sort of dig deep into the history, because obviously you are a fantastic drummer and a great example of it, particularly considering the fact that you do not spare on the blast beats. So, having said that, just tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get started? Because I think you were with your first band around, was it 2012 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I think I don't even know anymore, but it should be 2012.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think you will have only been a teenager at that time, correct?
yeah, yeah. I was very, very young when I started with my first band. Too young, I would say, even.
So I mean, tell me, like, how does one how does I mean, I do not mean this in a condescending way whatsoever. It's actually a compliment. But how does a teenage girl get into death and black metal at that age in Brazil? Just tell us a little bit about your background there.
Many people don't even consider that, but when you think that a teenage girl at that time living in a small city, the way that I live started in like extreme metal, it is pretty crazy to think about it. I was 12 when I started to play drums, when I decided that I would play drums. I didn't have a reason actually. This is one funny fact about it that I just did not have any reasons to start playing drums. The fact is, I live in this very small city. I had no friends at the time. I was just like hanging at my place, doing shit at the computer as always. It's the only thing I do till nowadays. And then I decided that I should do something as a hobby. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna pick something in my life to be like a hobby, something that I can like go forward with and that's gonna fulfill all my time and my needs. And like I never liked to party or to go out, didn't have groups of people to hang out. So I really was looking for something that would fulfill my life. And then I heard of a friend from a cousin of a friend or something like that. It was something very distant from me that played drums. And I was just like, why not? Don't have any reasons to start playing drums. It could be painting or something, piano or whatever, but it sounds cool. It sounds nice. Then we bought a drum kit here. Then it was about the time I started to listening to metal as well. So I decided that I would go towards metal and, do all the stuff that I do nowadays. But it was very much of a random choice. When I started to play, I didn't even know metal properly. So it all came together at the same time. And yeah, and then I started my bands when I was a teen. When I was 15 or 16, I started with my death metal bands where I actually started to learn how to play death metal. Because before that, I barely knew how to play drums. So I was just learning the basics. I learned with metal.
Very interesting. So you basically, you were self-taught then, essentially, right?
I had many teachers, but just at the beginning, when you're supposed to just learn the basics that everyone should know, and then
Right.
after that, when I started to like try to actually write death metal and stuff, and they didn't like the music, I just took off by myself.
Oh, interesting. Were they discouraging in any way to you of like, oh, why would you want to play death metal or anything like that?
They weren't, but they also didn't understand the music at all. When people listen to like death metal and they don't know when a riff starts and a riff ends. Even though they were
Sure.
drummers, I think this was too far from what they were listening to. They listened to like Brazilian pop music and stuff, so it was very far from what they knew. So it's fine. But I still take classes nowadays. But then with of course drummers that play death metal as well that can help me better.
Of course. That's a great mindset, by the way, because you already have such a good profile as a drummer and a musician, but the fact that you're still trying to get better, I think that's a great thing. You know, so many people, I think, could just learn from that mindset.
Oh, thanks. I mean, sometimes you just get stuck as a musician, and I think you should be humble enough to admit that you're stuck and that you should get better. And by yourself, it's gonna take just gonna take a long time. It's gonna take longer than ever. So yeah, sometimes I get some friends to like help me go forward in a much easier way, faster.
Sure thing. Well, and I guess your network of friends is a lot more impressive now than it will have been around 10, 11 years ago, I would think, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So, what was it that actually drew you to death metal then? I mean, what was it about it that was attractive to you? Were you already listening to it before you joined the first band, or was it only just around the time you joined the band that you actually started getting into that style of music as well?
I started to get sorry into death metal about the time I was 14, I think, and when I joined my band, I was 15 to 16. So I was like a beginner, but I already knew it. I already listened to it. I think I always leaned toward extreme music. Like even when I started to listen to metal, I would always search for something more and more extreme to the last band that I found. And I started listening to metal from MTV. It was the thing that I had available at the time. I didn't know how to search for anything. So everything that TV gave me, I listened to pretty much. And then from that, started to search for stuff myself and kind of accidentally got into death metal. You just search online, and then the most extreme thing you see, you're probably going to download and keep on going from that. And it was pretty much that. Like in the area here, we don't have anyone that listens to any extreme metal, so I didn't have any friends to kind of suggest me stuff or to get me into metal. Everyone asked me how I got into metal, but it was pretty much by myself, because there's no one here that does anything similar or listens to anything similar. But yeah.
You know, I actually, believe it or not, I 100% relate to that, because it was like that for myself as well. Around the time, I think I was around 13, going into 14 years old. And this is obviously, I'm from Iran, so over there, you're not even like legally allowed to listen to it. But I somehow ended up discovering, I think I sort of went through my earlier stages of it, with like, we're just hearing like some new metal bands for the first time, where it was the first time I ever heard of the genre. And then I saw Metallica, and then I was like, oh, okay, there we go. That's and then I was just like fucking hooked. And then 6 months later, I'm listening to Mayhem, and this like a 15-year-old kid in an Islamic country. So it's like, but then again, at the point I relate to that is that I also got into it completely on my own. And I think there's a special thing there, and there are plenty of other people out there from different generations, not just from you and I's generation, but from like even the older ones, where it was just like a natural calling, where it was just like they didn't think twice about it. It's just something that I think there's that different spirit that it just takes you there. I actually had Kyle from Vitriol on just quite recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had him on the podcast quite recently, and we were literally just talking about exactly that, where it's like, it is something about the spirit. There are those of us that are just a bit different, and we just get drawn to this thing without really being able to explain it. You can only really add meaning to it as the years go along, but the intuition is very much, I think, an organic and an inherent one, really.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. When I started, I didn't know why I liked it. I just liked it. So there's no good explanation really, more than we were kind of drawn to it. We are drawn to it.
For sure. I think that's exactly what it is, and it must feel great. I mean, especially now that you're, the Crypta have been doing so fantastically well since the band's conception, which technically wasn't even that long ago. But obviously you were all putting in the work for some time before that, so it's not like when you started the band, you were starting from ground zero. No, you were all, quite experienced by that point. But I would imagine that must feel pretty fucking good, to be doing what you guys are doing now, starting from, like you said, small town in Brazil for yourself as a teenager, and now you guys just played Walk-In last year. That must be pretty fucking cool, right?
I mean, I feel very, very lucky about the fact that nowadays I can live off music, and not just off music, but off death metal drumming. Like, this is my main work. I don't have any other thing that pays me. Like, this is my salary. Let's say death metal pays my salary, and it's incredibly lucky of me because you can count with one of your hands the bands that are in Brazil that are living off death metal nowadays, especially in Brazil. I would say that situation is really it's more complicated, I would say, than having a band in Europe or in the US or we're South Americans. It is tougher right here. So being able to live off music is very lucky. There are so many talented drummers and talented people and other great bands, and the fact that mine kind of took off enough to, like, we're not big or anything, but the fact that we are able to pay our debts with this is very lucky, I would say.
I think that's so cool to hear, and you're right when you say how little the numbers are. I mean, just making a living as a original musician alone. Yeah, you can be a cover musician and go on the road and play fucking Guns N' Roses covers, and you can actually make a lot of money doing that. But who wants to play in cover bands, right? You want to play your own music and
Yeah.
express your own thing and have your own. Or your own brand, I guess. There's the artistic aspect of it, but there's that as well. So obviously, having been in a position to make your living off of death metal, that's a fucking blessed position to be in. Blessed are the sick. But I think also there can be. I also do think it can very much be a double-edged sword as well. Like, for example, something as simple as the physical strain, especially of performing this style of music. Is there anything that you ever have, like any kinds of like anything that sort of like nags at you, any kind of pains or anything where it gets a bit stressful, like, oh shit, is this gonna stop me from being able to do what I do? Do you ever get anything like that at all, or do you have any concerns of anything like that popping up in the future?
I do have concerns because, like, playing death metal the way we play, like, every night, because we are playing all year round. We don't play like one tour and then we get to rest, and then another tour and get to rest. We are barely ever at home. We're just touring. So
Yeah.
at some point, it's gonna get you. Like, even if not just like physical pain by itself, but you're gonna get sick of something. It just happened to me, actually. It was the first time in my life that I actually had to stay at home, but I just got sick in the middle of a tour. Really needed to stay at home, like, for real, and had to, like, emergency find someone to play the songs and to go on tour with the band for 10 days. Which I mean, living off music is awesome, like as you said, but it's tricky because you don't have vacations, or if you get sick, you're not gonna get paid to stay at home. So pretty much, if you get sick, you know that you're on your own. You have to have your savings and everything from what you've done, because yeah, you're not. It's like in Brazil, I don't know out of the country, but it's probably the same. If you're working, you have this official document that you sign that you're working, and then if anything happens, government can give you your vacation or sick time, or what's the name of that, when you are.
Like holidays, essentially.
Yeah, or when you get old, I don't remember the term, but you get paid to stay at home because you can't work anymore. Retirement, yeah.
Sure.
So
Yes.
if you're a musician, you're not getting that. And playing the way that we play, we're certainly in pain all the time from carrying shit around. Also, like, especially for drummers, you know that you have to hit your mark every night to be able to play your own songs, like your marks for the kicks or your marks for the blast beats, and that you don't want to miss this and that part of the song. And it's not every night that you have time to sleep. which is crucial when if you're playing drums. Sometimes you sleep like 3 to 4 hours, and the next day you're gonna sleep 4 hours again, and then 4 hours again because I don't know, you're going to far places that you have to take flights to go, and
Yeah.
you don't eat very well on tour as well. So I mean, I do have concerns. I think for someone that is doing this for a living, you should definitely start saving money early because in my case at least, I don't know for how long my body will be able to do this. I hope for as long as possible, but I definitely don't think I expect to be 50 or 50 something and just doing this like every day in the rhythm that we are doing. Maybe less touring then it will work, but as it is right now, it's yeah, it's pretty tough for the body, definitely.
Well, I think there are many different prevention methods you could take as well. You know, things that you can exercise in your time off. One of the reasons why I personally actually sort of cleaned my shit up, if I may say, some years ago was because, you know, until maybe 2017, 2018, all I did was just eat like, you know, like a food junkie, you know, and then do tons of everything, you know, like you know, drink a lot, drinking. You like, I never had an addiction problem, but it was just kind of like, oh yeah, it's there and it's rebellious. Fuck it, you know. And then coming from an Islamic country, for me, it was like a cool sign of rebellion. Like, oh yeah, I get to do all these things and no one can tell me anything. But at the end of the day, you're just reducing your own quality of life. So one of the main reasons why I am super on advocating for health, fitness, good diet, good sleep, as you mentioned. I think part of it is simply just to make you a little bit more bulletproof for when you're on the road. Because, yeah, you know, like for example, you said about the 3-4 hours of sleep when you're flying. Like when you're flying, that already tires you out. It's not like you're just having a normal day. That's a very tiring thing, and jet lags are, you know, these are real things, you know. So I think it's as unromantic as it is to even talk about something like that. I think it is very important to consider it and take it seriously.
Yeah, unromantic was the best description I could get from this thing that we're doing right now, because everyone thinks it's awesome. Like I get all my friends from all over the place saying like, "Oh, it must be great to be traveling all the time and to get to know all those places and to play those stages and stuff." But it's as you said, it's very unromantic when you're backstage and you see that we are like barely alive, like didn't have time to eat, or just like the place that we stopped to eat in the road was just like McDonald's, and then we took a flight, and then we got some coffee and shit, and then you're on the stage already, and it's time to play, and then you get off stage, you work a little more, and then I don't know, you have to travel again to go to the next day because it's super far. So yeah, definitely when we are home, we're trying our best, I would say, to eat well and rest and do the things that we should do to get a better health. But sometimes everything goes down. It just did for me, so I'm just like, oh damn it, you know, it happens, shit happens. But yeah, it shouldn't, it should be a little bit better on tour, and maybe
What?
with time it's gonna get better. Right now it's pretty underground, I would say.
Well, I think you guys are killing it. You know, I mean, I even like by the standards of a death metal band, I think you guys are doing fantastic. And one thing I absolutely have to commend is how well all four of you are doing with the social media management. I think you guys have utilized that as best as I think a modern metal band could, especially coming from the extreme scene, you know. And again, I know that's something that, you know, all the old school people are like, no, you know, back in my day there was no Facebook, we only had tapes, you know, and my grandmother's fucking piano. But like with, you know, like it's a very important thing to have. And I'm also personally realizing this more as I go along, but I think you guys are probably doing quite well. So the fact that you're doing as well as you are, but then you're still having to put up with those conditions. You know, on one hand, there's that sort of reality call to it, but on the other hand, I think that just for me personally, at least, that only makes me respect you guys more for going through the mileage, for being passionate enough about what you do to still keep pushing and still going through it, regardless of the conditions of the road.
Yeah, about our social media, like if it was for me, like back in the days when I started with Instagram, I was just posting shit, like random pictures, black and white pictures of things and vinyls and tapes and yeah, with time I had to change that. Unfortunately, I would say I would prefer to be posting more of my own stuff here at home and stuff that I buy and think it's just cool to show people around. But as a like as someone that is living off this, I have to try my best in all possible ways, including online, to promote my drumming and promote the band. So I had to kind of change for a more professional profile. Not all professional because I still post shit and like share memes and stuff, but I do my best to keep on posting just drumming and stuff like that.
But
But
that's
yeah,
just your personality, isn't it? You know, maybe you should just open a shitposting account like Slash or John Cena or something like that.
I definitely should. I actually should. I would post quite a lot in there. I don't post
Yeah.
very much on my own profile. I try, but I'm very bad at social media. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you said. It's what we live is like a reality check. I would say it doesn't mean that if you're good on social media and if you're going well there, that your band is immediately going to get big. I think many people think that about us because we have a good presence online and like many followers. Everyone in the band has many followers. The band grew very, very fast online. That we are having like these fancy backstages or that we're just playing cool gigs because we're posting, of course, the pictures from nice gigs, from Summer Breeze and Rock in Rio. But
Yeah.
reality is, it doesn't really change that much. I mean, it's just that thing that is there that reassures you that people actually like your band and like follow you. But it's not reassurance for anything else. You're not gonna get anything else more than any other underground band because you're having this social media thing, which is at the beginning when I
Mm.
started to play and my profile was like small. I thought that when my profile really grew, I would get like more stuff and everything would get bigger as the profile grew bigger and the online presence was bigger because I thought that it matched real life. Like somehow, like if my band is having many followers, it means that in real life we have big crowds or better things, but it's really not like that. Many people don't expect that to be like that, but I think we learn that with time that it's just it doesn't change a lot. But
That's
it's good to
so
have anyway.
interesting. Oh yeah, for sure. It's a great tool, but I think that is so interesting to hear. And I think this is again another reason why I guess from my own perspective as a musician, the majority of the support that we get is at the shows. Like it's great having an online store and everything, but it's at the shows where the real magic happens. Both in terms of just the support, the words that people share, or even in terms of merch sales and things like that, because that's where it's really at. Like you need to do that, and not that you do it because you want to sell merch. Like at the core of it, it's that you want to do it because it's like an undying fucking fire inside you that just needs to come out. But at the same time, then there's that side of it as well, and that always works better at shows. And the thing is, like, we're talking about all these different elements of it as well, but then there are unexpected things as well that can happen, like in the example of the very unfortunate and tragic event that happened at the Apollo Theater in Illinois. I think that was only what, March this year when that happened.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
March.
what a crazy fucking situation to happen. What was that like?
Uh, I would say most traumatic experience I have ever been in, and I just realized it was being that much of a thing when I was already like in the basement with the lights off. It was that quick. It was just a regular
Wow.
day. We were there, sound checked, nice day outside actually. Everything looked fine. And then during our gig, actually, I'm the one with the cell phone to release the tracks, like intros and outros and stuff like that. And I
Sure.
was getting this tornado alert on my screen. And I was just like barely reading it. I was just like clicking like okay or cancel because I was just like, what the fuck? I have to release the intros and the outros. Like, what is this coming up? Like, and I never saw anything else coming up on my screen like that. Never. never got a warning just coming out of nowhere. I didn't even know my phone could do that. And
Yeah, like an emergency
and
alert.
yeah, emergency alert.
Yeah,
Like I never ever got an emergency alert just popping on my screen ever. So I thought it was some kind of spam or I don't know, an ad coming.
sure.
We're just canceling it. The show ended. Everyone was getting the alert as well. And a friend of ours from revocation was just like, I don't think this is gonna be like that bad. Maybe it's just a storm, but anyways, if it says tornado, I would highly recommend that you go to your RV and get um your things that are most valuable to you, or like money and documents and stuff. So we went there. Quickly took everything that was really expensive that we had, like phones and even the money from the tour, like my passport and shit.
Yeah.
And I remember I was the last one to be done packing my stuff, and it just looked like it was going to rain outside. Nothing beyond that. And from this little walk from the RV to the venue door, I remember that it was chill when I got out of the RV to walk, and when I got to the door in front of the venue, I could barely stand outside without like flying away with the wind. I remember
Oh
like
shit.
getting in and some dudes like struggling to close and lock the door, and everyone started to run to the bands and the crew to the basement. And in like 5 seconds after that, the tornado hit. So it's just like from nothing to just destroying everything. Like if
Wow.
anyone was outside thinking that it was going to be just a thunderstorm or something, they completely like just died because it was too fast that it happened. And we stayed downstairs. We heard a strong noise, and like the entire venue just shaking. And we had a blackout as well down there. The alarms started to ring, let's say. And just after that we realized that the roof fell over people. We didn't understand at the time, while everything shook so hard. We didn't know if the glasses were like breaking or anything else, but later we found out it was a roof. And then when the lights turned on again, we could only hear like people screaming and in pain upstairs. Benz started to go upstairs to get people to bring them down, and see if they
Yeah.
needed help or something, because it sounded bad. So, yeah, I would say most traumatic situation ever. Like, I would never imagine like being right where a tornado is gonna hit during a regular tour.
And I mean that's it. I watched the videos, like I was looking at everything, and going through different accounts of people putting up stories and things like that, even on like a lot of small accounts that I didn't follow, but just from people who attended the show, and I was following it, and fuck, it looked horrible. That looked really. I mean, the ceiling collapsing. I mean, on one hand, you could say, oh, it could have probably been worse in terms of casualties, but still, like that's not what you want. When you go on to do a tour like that, and obviously that very unfortunate that gentleman, I believe some guy called Frederick, who passed away because of it as well. Really tragic. It's just such a fucking shitty thing to happen. And for the tornado to hit at the venue, exactly where you guys are playing. And now obviously there's the whole thing that's happened with the RV as well, which you guys
Uh-huh.
seem to be completely locked in with. That you now have to deal with that. Is that still in the process of happening? Are you guys still taking donations for that? Or what's happening with the RV situation?
We just solved it actually. We were just able to pay everything. We needed the GoFundMe, of course. That
Yeah.
we were very lucky that people just donated everything in one day, which is just also like fucking crazy. We were at a tornado, and like absolutely fucking insane that when we needed money, we got it in 24 hours. When we realized it hit our RV, I think we got like an estimative for how much we would need to pay back, because we knew insurance wouldn't cover that. We had called them and everything the next day.
Yeah.
and we thought it would be around $60,000, which was absolutely out of our reach.
Yeah.
And then we asked for a GoFundMe with $60,000, and then we got everything, and we were like so happy we would get rid of that debt and everything would be fine, and probably still we would be able to like pay some other debts from the tour with the money that we had. And then when we finally came time to pay that, the guys were just like, no, it's gonna be like $100,000. It's not gonna be just 60 because of this, and that, and you have to pay for rental for blah 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 blah. And they added a million things, and then like at the end with discount and lots of talking, I guess the final amount, if I'm not wrong, was $82,000.
Yeah.
And so we basically took all our money, just like all our money. Let's just take everything we have, more everything people donated, more everything we got from the tour, and let's split and pay for this debt. Now we're done with paying, but at the same time, like we're just the band is bankrupt basically. Now we're gonna go back to like reopening our store. It's gonna be fine for sure, but it was tough when it happened. I mean, you expect that if you have insurance, that insurance is gonna cover when you have something that tragic. But it's
That's the
insurance.
idea, you would think, right?
Yeah, I never really trust insurances because I think they always have a million exceptions to not pay everything that happens to you. But yeah, that's what happened to us this time. Same problem with insurance, but gladly it's solved.
If you want to look at the bright side of that, at the very least, all four of you are safe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say that we got like this money issue because of the RV, and I mean it was stressful to deal with that for a long time. We dealt with that till now almost to be able to sort it out. But we are alive because the only thing I can remember from the tornado is that I was the only person that was still outside and the last one to get in, and I was just very glad when I got in that I was able to get in, because if I had taken some extra seconds, maybe I would have stayed outside. And yeah, no, no me to be having interviews anymore. So I'm very glad that we were all able to get in and get safe.
Well, listen, I'm very glad you are here as well, and and I'm glad that, as heartbreaking as that experience must have been, as traumatizing as it must have been, I commend all of you for still sticking to it and still continuing down doing this, because I feel like had that happened to a lot of other people, they probably would have just quit afterwards and they would have never continued again in fear of something like that happening, or thinking, oh fuck this, I'm risking everything, putting my life on the line, like all the finances, and then now there's stuff like this happening. So I respect you guys for sticking through that.
Oh, thanks, man. And you know what's funny? The next day after the tornado, while we were still like barely having any clothes, us at least, because our clothes were still in the RV, we all from the tour actually just took our instruments that were all like wet and full of dust and concrete on top and shit, just dusted everything off. And the next day we had a gig and we kept on touring. Like we didn't cancel any gigs from that tour because of the tornado, which honestly, I don't know how. Still, I think about that. What we did, and it's fucking insane that we were just like, no. I think no one in the tour really slept, and we didn't know if the gear was working, if the guitars were working, if the triggers are working, or anything really, any electronics. We didn't know if any of that worked, and we just like came up to this venue, started cleaning everything with shower towels, and tried everything during sound check and basically played the gig that night. I remember playing with the drums all still full of mud marks on the heads just after we cleaned even. So I mean, it's pretty crazy, but we did it. It's over. Finally, that tour is over. That tour was insane for everyone. Yeah. Tour of terror, definitely.
I mean, listen, that's music to my ears. You know, you guys still continuing and doing everything without canceling. That's beautiful. I really like that. You know, and I hope everyone listening to this, especially if it's people in bands, they take a note out of Crypta's book on that one. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about as well was obviously recently you guys you've put out a couple of singles now, which sound absolutely fucking fantastic, by the way. You know, and I'm looking forward to getting the full thing coming out, but also hopefully actually catching you guys live with it as well. But just as a bit of an anecdote that I was curious to sort of talk to you about. You mentioned before that on this last video that you guys did, you were in some pretty interesting conditions when making the video, because I noticed that a lot of it is just like continuous shots, and you look like you're in this obscure, desolate, weird fucking place at nighttime. So, what was that shoot like for that video?
Well, we wanted to do a video that was simple, quick, because we didn't have time, and also like no budget if we could. And I was just like, something there is something I've always wanted to do, was like to record a video playing in the dark, which sounds tricky because it's a video and you shouldn't be in the dark if you're doing a video. But I always had the dream of like playing just complete darkness. And we had this idea of doing something then like the Blair Witch movie, because we've been to the Blair Witch Forest in the US.
I see.
Just one guy holding a light and a camera, and just this creepy vibe all over, playing different rooms, and just like I was against a wall playing drums, and the girls in like weird corners. And yeah, basically that was the idea. We needed to find an abandoned place to do that, somewhere that was like really creepy to record. And just out of São Paulo, there is this public location in a park, it's a big regular park for people to like run and go with their dogs. But there is this abandoned place that is actually, it's a very big house. So there are many rooms to that is not in the forest, but almost in the forest. Like it's around the forest in the park. And it's very public in there. Like some sketchy people go there during the night for sure. Like every night there's sketchy people doing sketchy stuff in there. You shouldn't be there with gear for sure. But we were like, okay, we gotta do this. There is no other place to do that. That's the best location. If there is people there, we're gonna just scare them off with noises and lights and stuff and recording cameras, and they're probably gonna go away. And that's what happened. When we got there, it was like we couldn't see anything. It was so dark we couldn't even know where we were stepping. But with the lights and the cameras, we saw some people just like going away. They probably didn't want to get recorded doing drugs or something, or illegal activities.
Sure. Did you take any like weapons or anyone with anything with you? You know, just to protect yourselves.
We were just like Brazilian mode. Just get there and be loud till everyone gets. Just some São Paulo street living, basically. Got there, put everything up, started recording. Basically, it was very simple to record. It didn't take us very long. It took way longer to get there and to be able to put the gear all inside that place, because it was kind of tricky to get in, like narrow doors and broken stuff. We didn't want to scratch anything or, stumble and die inside of the place or something. But yeah, very simple. Our tour manager recorded, which is the guy that works doing everything for us. He's a video maker in Brazil and photographer and everything. Also does tour managing and this and that. And we just took him and another person with a light, and and we've done it in one shot.
Oh, so it's all in one continuous shot, basically.
Yeah, we were able to record it entirely 3 times without making any mistakes. The rest of it is just like takes of us like, I committed a mistake, screaming in the background.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love stuff like that. It reminds me of that one episode of True Detective on the first season. I don't know if you ever watched it, but there's this whole section where McConaughey is going in as some kind of a undercover guy, and then he's going into these like drug gangs, to capture one guy, but then it's literally 4 or 5 minutes of action, and it's all in one continuous shot, which involves him like climbing over things and going through different neighborhoods, and it's so fucking cool. And I like those kind of touches on things, and I think it's cool to do something like that, especially because you've done other music videos where you do all the different stuff, and then, like you said, the budget, which but like it's also something that shows you don't always have to do that. Like another example of that is Glenn Danzig. I mean, his best videos from the late '80s, early '90s, I think they were all pretty much like zero budget homemade music videos that he just made, and they all just still look absolutely fucking iconic nowadays.
Yeah, I think it's about the vibe that you give in the video and not exactly the video or the production or the camera that you're using. It's really just about the vibe. This one, we wanted to go for like a creepy vibe, something, well, with shadows and that represented the song. And I think that there's nothing better than like a homemade video or something that is made in one shot in an abandoned place than that to look creepy. So yeah, and we're definitely giving up the right vibe we wanted to. So that's a goal that we reached, I would say.
Yeah. So when you were in the room playing, where the lights, so you said you had some guy doing the lights, and you had obviously a camera person. Were these two guys moving together, or did you all have like a set of lights next to each one of you?
No, the goal was just that this one person had the light behind the camera and like running behind the camera. So when they weren't filming us, like if he was filming Jessica, I was completely just in the dark there, just like, what the fuck, where I am.
That's exactly why I asked that question, because I was thinking, hang on, so if the light person's there filming the other people, so you're there just in the dark playing drums in a corner, right? So that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the way we recorded is that we had this huge JBL speaker playing the song, so everyone knew where we were in the song. But if I played drums on top of that, no one could hear where they were, and that was kind of a problem. And so I could only play if the camera came closer to me. And then when it went away and went to the girls, I should stop playing so they could hear the music again from the JBL and kind of go back to the right place in the song. And so,
very interesting.
Like I was just looking up, and when I saw that the light was like coming towards me and like reflecting on the trees and stuff, I started playing. And then when I saw them getting out of the room, I would stop and just keep on paying attention to the reflections, to what direction they were going. So when they came to my direction, I knew I should start playing again. So yeah, it was the music video I played the least, for sure.
But I fucking love that. It's the DIY spirit of it. I mean, we had a similar sort of thing with my band. We did this music video. We shot it in this weird fucking farm in Suffolk in England, where the landowner was kind enough just to let us have the place for free, and and we had everything down to a T. Like sort of like the settings, all the props, things like that. Really high quality cameras. Like we really like this was for us like the first time. We're like, okay, we're gonna fucking do this properly. It's not come out yet, by the way, but it probably will be not long after this episode airs. So just a heads up. But but we had this, like, we nailed everything except probably one of the most important fucking things, which was how are we gonna listen to the song when it's playing? So all we had was our director bringing this small shitty fucking Bluetooth speaker. So we spent maybe like an hour or two just trying to figure out, hey, which part of the song are we actually in? Or like, how are we gonna do the drums? Do we tape the cymbals? Do we just tell the drummer not to move his feet if the camera's in front? And all these like kind of DIY improvisations that you just have to do on the spot, which are really, I almost feel like not only you learn from them, but they also add to the project. So every time, like you watch that, what's gone into it, and it just makes you be that much more proud of the final result when it's ready. And hopefully it actually looks good too, which at least in your case, it definitely did.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned the problem that we had. That was exactly our problem because we couldn't bring like a huge speaker or anything that we should plug because there was no electricity to plug in.
Yes.
And I couldn't play over because then the Bluetooth speaker would be completely muted for the other ones. And yeah, we took some time to figure out how we were gonna do that out there without any electricity, but it ended up working. But yeah, it was as DIY as it can get.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's in a way, I guess that's the way it should be. It's metal. It's black metal, death metal. This is the true nature of how it is. Doesn't matter if we're in 2023 or whatever year. 1992. That DIY spirit will always be there. That you do whatever is possible to make the art happen and leave that mark behind. And that's you know, I think that's what we live for, really.
I agree. Very true metal to record like that.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, if you really want to know like obscure examples of like doing shit like that, um obviously this might not be as this might seem a little crazy for anyone listening who's never had to record music before, but when I was in Iran and I was about 15, 16 years old and I was trying to record the first demos for my band, I also did record a bunch of covers as well. So I recorded a bunch of covers for like Mayhem, Behemoth, Dark Funeral, and those bands that at the time were very close to my heart. To some extent still are actually, but Mayhem particularly. But for me, it was the way I used to do it was I didn't have a drummer. So are you familiar with the program Guitar Pro?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what they sound like, and I used to take the bass and the drums from Guitar Pro, and then on top of it, I didn't have any microphones, but I had this small digital camera that my father had, in case like we went away anywhere and wanted to take family pictures. Used to put that on video mode, put it next to my small 10-inch Laney amp, and film that, and then record along to the song. And I used to go 1, 2, 3, 4 on the guitar at the beginning of each song, so I would know when the counting is. And then I'd record another layer of vocals, and then later on the computer, the way I used to mix all the songs was almost like analog. So the way I do it is a program called Virtual DJ, right? I don't know if anyone
Okay.
nowadays might even know of that one, but I used to drop in one song and then have another one, and then have the second track where it's just after the fourth countdown, so I would sort of adjust it. Then I would play the other song, press record, and as the other track rather would do 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd press play on the other one, so the two guitars would play at the same time, and it was like this totally fucking, you know, old school DIY way of doing it, where it was almost like as if I was putting like analog tapes together, but on a shitty computer. But
Uh-huh.
it's what gets you there. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. That's what matters.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's what I've been doing all my life, actually. Just
Yeah.
fixing everything that we can DIY and finding ways to make it things on a budget and finding ways to make more than what we could with the money we have and just going for it, really.
So I'm gonna ask you like this is not gonna be off topic, but I'm gonna ask you a very broad but rather very important question. Okay, and I do believe that out of the 50 odd episodes I've had on Iblis Manifestations, you're my first guest from Brazil,
Oh,
which is a country that I have a lot of respect for when it comes to metal. So, Luana, do tell us, why the fuck is Brazil so superior when it comes to metal? Like, what's going on in the water there that it has been the way that it is?
I got someone asking me the same question like a week ago. I don't remember who, but someone was asking me like, "What the fuck about Brazil?" And I don't fully know how to answer that. But like in the south where I live, people are very much into extreme metal, and I don't really know why. Like we don't have heavy metal bands here in the south or thrash metal bands or doom bands. We don't have any other metal genre that is not Black and Death in the South. And of course, all around Brazil, you have the rest of the genres that you don't have here in the South. But I think, as you said, like most of the bands are extreme, and even if they are not like super extreme metal, like people, I think, hit harder in Brazil, I would say, or just are angrier about their metal. I don't know. I would
Interesting.
assume that it's because, well, it's a little. Oh, I think it is at least a little harder to be a South American. Usually, like the opportunities here are kind of not as good, I would say, or they don't come as often. So I think when we do have bands and we can express ourselves, we usually go harder about it. Like we have this anger and this passion that is just really from trying to find this spot that is really difficult for us. So when we get there, we do have all these emotions about it. I would say that's the thing, but I can't say for sure.
I think that's actually very well put. I mean, there's something, I don't know what it is, but I've always had a very strong connection with all of the people I've met from South America who are into metal, who are into this, and then I can name a few, but like, there's always that sort of thing that I felt like I could relate to a lot more with where I come from compared to, say, someone who's in Europe. And don't get me wrong, I have very fantastic connections with my friends in Europe. I live here. I know I'm in the UK, but that's technically Europe. Just
Yeah.
geographically speaking. But you know, but I think there's this. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like you said, there's that passion and that opportunities come harder. People are less, maybe not so much financially spoiled, although I do think that can also apply as well. But I also think that there's definitely that thing of just less accessibilities. And in a way, I like that because to me, it's like, especially when it comes to metal, you add more of an aura to it. Like, for example, when you watch Flight 666 with Iron Maiden, the whole film is one thing, but when they go to South America, that's when it gets interesting. That's when you see all the fucking crazy things that happen there, whether it's just the fans or whether it's the authorities, and how there's these like constant clash and battle between them. And I think it's an interesting one. I mean, you look at the history of, but then Brazil particularly, I feel like has this very powerful stance. I mean, you look at all the way back at obviously Sepultura, which from like 80s to early 90s are undoubtedly one of the most important things to happen in metal. But even besides them, you still have Sarcophago, you still have Volcano, and even in the later years, you still have Christian or fucking killer bands, and there's this thing, I don't know where this comes from. I'm fascinated by it. I'm genuinely fascinated by Brazilian people. Period. Whether even with your occult, and the fascination with like Kimbanda and Eshu and Pombagira, and I'm familiar with all of that, and it's a fascinating place.
Yeah, it's very strong here in Brazil. There's Mystifier as well, and
Of
I'm
course,
always
yes,
happy to mention.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know what goes on in Brazil, but we're just angrier with for some reason. Don't know. Including me, I would say. Maybe as I said before, like the lack of opportunities. When we get one, we just go for it. Yeah.
May I propose a rather wild fucking theory as to why I think this might be the case?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, and please do not take any offense to this. This is completely a hypothetical thing, and it needs to be looked at. But are you familiar with what toxoplasmosis is?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for anyone obviously listening, the idea is it's a sort of a parasite which actually affects people in their neurological states and things. But basically, the way it happens, I think it's something like rats see cats. So the rats go up to the cats, and the cats kill them and eat them, and then the cats shit everywhere, and the cows eat the shit, obviously because it's mixed in with grass and the land and things like that. So the cows take this virus, and the humans eat the cows. So as a result, I believe something like over 60% of the population in Brazil actually has this virus in their system, which one of its factors is, it has neurological implications, but it actually, for the men, increases their testosterone, which is one of the reasons why you can, it makes them more moody and more, and also makes some of the women hypersexual. And I do wonder, when you look at, like how athletically competitive Brazil is, I wonder if this is part of the reason why the metal scene is the way that it is as well. I mean, who knows, right? It's a theory.
That is the wildest theory I could hear, actually. I am so impressed that you actually came with this theory. It almost sounds like a conspiracy theory about, yeah. What can I say? I can't say no, but wild conspiracy, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, well, it is true that I think over 60% of people in Brazil do have it. I think
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I think there's a documentary about it. I forget the name off the top of my head. But at the time when that came out, I mean, that must have come out, what, like 10, 15 years ago, maybe? But in that documentary, I think they actually said 66% of the people in Brazil carry this virus.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, yes. So I do wonder.
Yeah, it makes me wonder too now.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I think you get it in different places as well. But I think that Brazil absolutely has the highest numbers in the world, and it's a curious thing. I would love for that to be measured. Like I'd love it if I had like a whole bunch of cash. I would throw it at some scientists and be like, find out why metal from Brazil is the way it is, and does it have anything to do with toxoplasmosis or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just my fucking theory. Since you were the first Brazilian guest, I had to throw it out there. Okay. So,
of course.
There we go. Awesome. Well, listen, Luana, I think we can start to wrap things up here, especially on that wild fucking note that I've just left everyone with. But first of all, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I really appreciate your time and you coming on here. And like I said, I've followed you for a while, and it's fantastic what you're doing as a musician, and I think you're setting a great example. And I'm sure after people hear this conversation, they're only gonna think that even more. So just to sort of round things up, what have you got coming up? Obviously, including the new album that you want people to keep an eye out for.
The album is going to be released on the 4th of August, so there's that. And we're still about to release other singles and other videos for this album.
Cool.
I cannot tell when, but I know that we are going to do that because we do have still some videos to release. And I would say that if people like the band already, or if they're like even slightly interested in the band after hearing this interview or seeing anything online, that they follow us on social media to keep up with what we're doing, or even better than that, even better than following us online, that you probably go to a Crypta gig if you have the opportunity. We would be very happy about that. And yeah, that's it. And thanks for inviting me, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Are you guys got any plans of coming to Europe or this neck of the woods at any time?
Yeah, actually, in 3 days I'm leaving to Europe. I'm gonna go a little bit earlier, but just to enjoy Europe overall. It has been a long time since I'm home. But the tour starts on the 13th in Austria. So yeah.
Okay, killer. Do you guys have a UK date on that? I don't think I recall seeing one.
I don't think we have right now, but I am almost sure we're going to come back to Europe and go to the UK by the end of the year.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. Well, I hope to catch you at one of those shows then in that case. And obviously to everyone listening as well, then make sure to go and check out Crypta, and keep an eye out for the new album. And if you haven't already, check out the new singles, particularly the last one, Trial of Traitors. It sounds fucking sick. There's some really cool verse riff in there. I'm sure you guys will like it. So, yeah. Once again, Luana, thank you so much for joining me. And to everyone else listening, yeah, we'll see you guys on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations. Hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.
Bye.